Am I audible? Online वालों? Am I audible? Whistleblowing may be illegal in the countries where it is not allowed. I mean, before we enacted Whistleblowing Act, it was illegal only. So that the context is important. Okay, so how many? Can you please tell me virtue and moral values can be used? I will discuss that, Shubham, later. Okay, so how many of you went home and what is the difference between values and morality? I think that is something that you can answer. Not all values are moral values. Not all values are moral values. Some of the values can be immoral values also, like greed, lust. No, we discussed that. So that is the difference between morality and values. Not all values are moral values, and also not all values have the connotation of rightness and wrongness, and they are amoral values. So that is something that we all know. Any other doubt? Also, how many of you went home and go through PYQs? Have you started that? कितने लोगों ने नहीं देखा? How many of you did not even see it? बताइए, हाथ खड़ा करिए. ऑनलाइन वालों, कितने बच्चों ने नहीं देखा घर पे PYQs? It is bad, you are supposed to start seeing them on a regular basis. It will help you tremendously. Yes, it will help you tremendously. Okay, so I think let us just start. What we discussed yesterday? We discussed some of the basics of values, morals, ethics. Yes, values are our preferences and they can be moral, amoral, and immoral. And we also discussed that ethics and morals are basically standards based on which we judge the rightness and wrongness of human action. Yes, that is what we understood. And we also discussed that there is a difference between ethics and morals, and that morals are intrinsic standards and ethics are external standards. And similarly, there is a difference between religion and ethics also. And when we decide the difference between these two terms or any such terms, we will create a matrix. On the basis of certain aspects, we will compare these two terms. Yes, and we discuss between ethics and law, ethics and religion, and I am sure all of you would have revised that. Then we also discussed constitutional morality. So that is nothing but what is the keyword that is supposed to be there when you are defining constitutional morality? Spirit of the Constitution, not just the letter of the Constitution. It is about the spirit of the Constitution. So that is very, very important. So the gap that is there between law and spirit, that gap is basically constitutional morality, and those are the kind of examples that you have to invoke, in order to fetch great marks, and that will tell the examiner that you have understood the concept. Yes. Any other topic that we discussed? Determinants of ethics. So basically, there are various factors that shapes the evolution of ethical standards, because ethical standards, they are not static, they keep on changing with time, and then time itself is a very big factor that changes the evolution of various ethical standards. There are social role of social influencers, which tells people what is the right thing to do, what is the wrong thing to do, and that is how also, it actually changes the notion of what is right and what is wrong. Government, judiciary, legislature, they also have various ways to influence people's opinion about their judgment, that what is right and what is wrong. Yes, and history, so many factors are there, and I think that was the last topic that we studied. Yes. So I think I have formed this group. You can please scan it, and then you can join this group. That group is for this year batch. Let me see if it is working. You please scan it. I will just see it right here. Link थोड़ा difficult होगा. You scan करिए ना. Scan will be much more easy. You put the photo. Okay, tomorrow also I will show it. Don't worry. So is it working? Yes, it is working, I think. Okay. Yes. So you please join it. I forgot to add one bot is there that can remove this. Okay. Done? Is it done? आपने कर लिया ज्वाइन? फोटो ले लिया? फोटो ले लिया, बाद में करेंगे, पंडित जी से पूछेंगे। 8:09 पे ज्वाइन करना है। ओके, बाकी लोगों ने ज्वाइन कर लिया? खुशी, आई एम एबल टू सी योर मैसेज, आई कैन सी योर मैसेज। Okay, can we start now? Yes? Yes, sir. Okay, so now let us discuss another important term, that is consequences of ethics. So when we talk about consequences of ethics, we discuss in the context that what will happen when we follow ethical standards and what will happen when we do not follow ethical standards. Yes, and that we call as consequences of ethics. Understood? That what is the consequence of answer writing for you? Like that, it helps you in terms of putting your thoughts in letters. Yes, it helps you in increasing your answer writing speed. Yes, it helps you in writing more precisely, so on and so forth. So that is the consequence of answer writing for you. Consequence of ethics will simply mean that what good will happen when you follow certain ethical standards. Understood? Understood or not? So when I tell you that ethics promotes individual well-being and societal well-being, I am talking about consequences of ethics. So when I tell you corporate social responsibility, CSR makes companies more profitable, I am talking about again consequences of ethics, because this is consequence of ethics for private organization. So when in general I am thinking the consequence of ethics, I will talk about consequences on individuals. I will talk about consequences on individuals, then I will talk about consequences on organizations, and those organizations will include both private organizations and public organizations, and of course NGO organizations. Yes, that will be the consequences on organizations, and then there will be consequences on society in general, and then of course consequences at the global level. That what are the consequences of following ethical standards at global level. Understood? So basically this term is not monolithic, that whenever this question comes that how does consequences, how does ethics helps you, then you have to divide your answer similarly. When we discuss society, I will tell you great more dimensions. Let us just start. If the question tells you that why it is important for individuals to follow ethics. Why it is important for individuals to follow ethics. So if we are talking about that, then we have certain argument that why individuals should follow ethics. And when we discuss those arguments, we should discuss that from the see, if you want to fetch great marks in ethics paper, your argument have to be like that following ethics helps the individuals only. Your argument cannot be like, no, it is that it is something that you do to please gods, that we are doing it for someone else. For example, if I am working hard on, in this module, I am not doing that for you. Yes, if I give such arguments that I am working hard, dear students, for you only. No, the primary argument is I am working hard because then only I will grow. Yes. So that is the core concept that you need to understand. Whenever you are telling companies that why companies should be ethical, because the very first argument should be that you should be ethical because it will help you grow. That should be the first argument. It should not be the argument that you should be ethical because otherwise you will be jailed, because that is not the kind of argument that you would like to give. Are you able to understand this or not? That a kind of argument should follow, the rationality, the practicality for the entity whom you are espousing that, that they should follow ethical standards. And if you think like that, then the kind of argument that you will be giving will be very rational and very compelling. For example, if I ask you that you should do ethics answer writing, yes, and I tell you that it is your duty to do your answer writing, it may not appeal to you. But if I tell you should do ethics answer writing because then you will get 140 marks in ethics paper, then it will be very much appealing to you. Yes, because duty, yes, we need to write those terms. Yes, it is important, but we need to talk about in the context of consequences for that person, and then only you will get great marks. That is why in case study, when we argue that civil servants, one case study was there, for example, in which civil servant Sunil and some young dynamic SP who was posted in a district, sand mafia was there, and he was taking action on that sand mafia, and he was threatened by the sand mafia that you should not, do, otherwise we will send your family to heaven, and we will kill you also. Now, if that person, simply run away from the responsibility and seek transfer, then the argument that you should give is that it will make you a coward in the eyes of public, in the eyes of government. Now, government will not assign you a great responsibility in the future. Now, that is more compelling argument than saying you are not doing your duty. Of course, you are not doing your duty. It is very important argument. But I hope you are understanding from the perspective that if you are giving practical argument first, then it moves the reader, it moves the examiner, that you understand that why it is that we should follow ethics. This part understandable or not? And we will discuss from that context only. Say that individuals should be ethical because they have to survive. If you are not ethical, I am telling you, you will not survive. Let us talk about the people who believe in violence. Since beginning, they believe in violence. Since beginning, they believe that every conflict has to be resolved by violence only. And those people become what? Murderer, terrorist, Naxals. What will happen? Societal institutions will eliminate them. I will give you time to take photo, just listen. Societal institutions like police, army will eliminate them. So that is why it is important that they be ethical, that they should not be violent. Because any violent person, first family will expel that person, domestic violence. If it is too much domestic violence is there, then wife will leave the husband. You will be alone only. And suppose if too much of violence is there and he's creating nuisance in the society, then society will create punishment for that person. So basically he will not survive if it is too violent. Understood or not? Similarly, humans, when they are born, they are not capable of taking care of themselves. Yes or no? Are they capable? They are not capable. Suppose parents are not there, suppose any other institution is not there to support them, then it is very difficult for them to survive. Yes? As infants, there has to be someone who is taking care of them. So, humans are surviving when they are born because someone else is doing their duty. Similarly, at the later part of their life, when they become old, they again need someone to support them. Then also they will not survive. So the very survival of human life, in the beginning of the life and the end of the life is contingent upon fulfillment of the responsibility or duty by other people. So that is why the person who are beneficiary, of survival, they should also do their duty. So children, when they are getting benefit of parents doing their duty, so children, when they become adult, they should also do their duty, in order to help their parents when they become old. Because if this mechanism is not there, then humans will not survive. You will not survive. Individual will not survive. So firstly, you should be ethical because you want to survive. You should be ethical because you want to survive. It is as simple as that. You are not being ethical to help any other person. You are simply ethical because you want to survive. Another important argument is you have to be ethical because you want to live a life of human being. Now, in humans and animals, a lot many things that are common. There are various humans, they are simply existing in this world. They have come into this world, they are eating, drinking, and they will be creating children, and then they will simply die. No one will remember them, just like we don't remember animals. Similarly, those humans will also not be remembered because all they had was animalistic existence. At times, humans also behave like animals. All we know about this Kolkata case that happened, all we know about the Nirbhaya case that happened in Delhi. What we think of those rapists? What do we think of them? Do we call them animal or not? We call them animal because those people did not behave like human beings. They allowed their desires to overpower them. And that is why they behave like an animal. So that is something that you need to understand, that For human being to actually live a true human life, it is important that he understand that what is his purpose in life. Suppose a tiger is there and that tiger kills a human being. Will that tiger be, tried in the court of law? But if a human being kills another human being, he will be tried in the court of law, because humans have cognitive capability to make distinctions between what is right and what is wrong. And that is why it is not expected of humans that they will be having an animalistic existence. What is expected of humans? That they should have this basic sense of dignity, that what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do. What is the right kind of pleasure to pursue and what is the pleasure that one should not pursue. I'm now quoting John Stuart Mill, who believed in qualitative aspect of utilitarianism. I will tell you later. Who says that it is better to be a pig satisfied than a human being dissatisfied. He says it is better, if we have to choose, then perhaps we will choose that a pig is getting satisfied, because that pig cannot differentiate between what is the right pleasure and what is the wrong pleasure. But the human being, it is better that he remains unsatisfied, because he knows that he should not pursue that kind of pleasure. Understood? So basically, if you want to live a human life, if you want to truly experience human life, then you need to understand that you need to be ethical, you need to be moral, you need to question your belief pattern. And that is why, Greek thinkers said that, Aristotle said that unexamined life is not worth living. That if you are not examining your life, you will be simply having an animalistic existence in this world. And this examination of what you are doing, whether you are doing it right or whether you are doing it wrong, that examination will only make you live a life of purpose. Otherwise, you will be simply existing. And it is one of the biggest differentiators that is there between humans and animals, that humans can differentiate. They have this judgment. Now, can you see we are linking to one Greek thinker, just we have linked, and another is qualitative utilitarianism, John Stuart Mill. I will teach you later, but both these aspects you can quote whenever you are writing this answer, that why individuals should follow ethical standards. They should follow ethical standards because they want to have this human existence. They need to examine their life. Otherwise, it is not worth living. You talk about Mother Teresa. You talk about Gautam Buddha, who was Prince Siddhartha before. Only when he examined his life, only when he saw the dead person and all those person, the person with the disease, only when he saw them and he realized that, this is something that awaits him. And then he realized that, he should not do it. That then he went on to this path and he examined the life and he propounded this great path of Buddhism. Only when Ashoka questioned his own belief pattern, he became the great Ashoka. Only when, a dacoit, all of you know that Rishi Valmiki was a dacoit. Yes? Only when he questioned his belief pattern, he started living a life of human. So, you have to be ethical because you want to experience human life. You can only experience human lives when you are ethical or when you are moral. Otherwise, you will not be experiencing human life. Still, if it does not make it very much clear to you that why you should be ethical, just think of a person who is always drunk. From morning to night, he is drinking alcohol, of course. So, from morning to night, that person is drinking only. All the time, he is drinking only. Every time you see that person, he is intoxicated. What is the kind of life he is living? Is there any existence of him? Is there anything that he is doing that is worthwhile? He will simply die one day and no one will remember him. So the point I'm making is, don't you now see that that person is he's behaving like a pig only because he's not realizing that life that he's living is basically animalistic. So we should follow ethical standards because you are born as a human being. It is expected of you to distinguish between qualitative aspect of pleasure, John Stuart Mill, and also it is expected of you to examine your life of what you are doing because you have this cognitive capacity. Greek thinker Socrates, you can quote that unexamined life is not worth living. And ultimately, you should be ethical because you want people to believe you. Yes? How would you react if whatever you are saying, people are not believing in you? How would you react? How will you feel? You will feel bad about it, don't you? That people are not believing. Have you heard of the story, Bhediya Aaya? Yes, what happened in that story? People were not believing that person. When he truly called, that it has come. The people did not believe in him. I will give you another example. During Harshad Mehta scam, the money was not there in the market. And when money was not there in the market, what happened? E. Sridharan Saab, he was, heading some railway projects. I think Konkan projects or something like that. He was heading some railway projects. Many contractors worked without payments for months because they believed in the ethicality of E. Sridharan. That is the kind of credibility he carried. So being ethical makes you a credible person. And of course, you would like to be the person whom people believes in. What is the point of living if people are not believing in you? Yes, your wife is not believing in your promises, your children are not believing in you, when you are saying something to them. What is the point of living then? Unless you want to be politicians, that is a different story, but yeah. Yes, credibility is important. Then ethicality helps you in decision making. When you are ethical, it helps you that you are taking the right decision. I will give you an example of Chauri Chaura incident. When this Chauri Chaura incident happened after non-cooperation movement, they were all young nationalists that were there. Jawaharlal Nehru and everyone who were saying, no, we should continue the movement. This is the right time and British will simply, flee the India. But Gandhiji was very adamant about it that no, that the mass movement cannot be based on violence. So it helped him in decision making because he was very much clear that this is the path that he has to take. In case studies, as I told you yesterday also, that you have hierarchy of values and you will be having a lot of dilemmas. Because all those ethical principles, all those moral values may come in conflict with each other. And then if you are an ethical person, if you know which one to prioritize over other, then it will be easy to make the decision. So that is how ethics help you because you can make right decision. It also makes you a confident person. You talk about whistleblowers. Don't you think it will require a lot of courage of conviction on the part of whistleblowers? Don't you think? Yes, it will require a lot of courage of conviction. So you have to be ethical because you want to be a courageous person. If you have done something wrong, then you will always have this guilt, this crisis of conscience will always be there and it will kill you. You will not have happiness at your heart. I'll give you the example of Socrates. When he was awarded the sentence that he was supposed to drink this cup of poison. Then his follower came to him few days before that judgment that, that we can make you escape from this place. And he said that, if I escape from this place, then it will be very wrong. It will be very wrong. People will believe that I have not stood for my principles. So can you imagine the kind of courage he had because he was standing by his principles? Can you imagine the kind of courage Bhagat Singh at such a young age had because he knew what he was doing was right? So the people who are following the ethical principles are the people who are courageous because they know what they are doing is right. And all of you must know, you can correlate that courage is a very cardinal virtue. Yes, one of the important cardinal virtue. I will teach you that in virtue ethics. Courage. So if you want to be happy truly, you want to be someone who has clear conscience. And clear conscience will only be there if you are following ethical principles. You talk about Gandhiji. Gandhiji had, he was widely accepted as mass leader. You talk about changers, no changers, you talk about Khilafah, you talk about Swaraj, everyone was, accepting him as their leader. So that is the kind of credibility he carried. That is the kind of trust he carried of the people. And he carried it because people believed in him. People believed in him. People believed in him because they knew that he is a very ethical and moral person. So that is how ethics helps you. Yes, that you get to live human life. You get to truly experience human life. It helps you in decision making. It helps you in clear conscience, and that is why truly happiness, it makes you a courageous person. Yes, ultimately it helps you to survive. So when you yourself, are ethical person, then it makes it makes things very easy for you. Now I will give you these examples. If you are someone who is like Veerappan, who believed in violence, then you will be eliminated. If you are someone, who believe in violence at domestic level, then you will not have peace at your home. So you have to be ethical. You need to respect women, because it only helps you. You will only have the peace of mind. All of you know this story, I think last year it happened that a girl rejected the proposal of the boy, and that boy, I think, threw acid on that girl. What happened after that? Jail. So basically, that is what happened. When you don't follow ethics, you will end up there only. Ultimately, you will end up there only. Understood? So now you know why individuals have to be ethical. You know that? Yes? Let us talk about organizations. Let us talk about organizations. That why organizations have to be ethical. Why organizations have to be ethical. Now organizations, any organization which is working, of course, it will want to get input at the lowest cost. If you are someone who is running the restaurant, perhaps you will want that the input cost of various raw material that you are using, it should be lowest. Yes or no? That is what you will want. Economy. Yes? Let us take the example of government, that you have to give a tender to someone. Let's say the government need to procure, 1 lakh computer, 1 lakh laptops to be distributed in the state. And you are someone who is handling all the tender. And suppose there is someone, who contact you, and then he says that, that he will share some money. I will give you some money. Why only government have all the fun? We'll share some money. Then do you think the government will get the laptop at the lowest possible cost in this case, or in the case when it actually truly invite the tenders and do the competitive bidding? Of course, it is very much clear, because in the first place, the margin of corruption will actually be there in the input cost. From where it will come otherwise? So if you want to get the input at the lowest possible cost, it is important that you follow ethical standards. And that is why government amended all the, I think, Mines and Minerals Act and every policies, so that every mines that it is now awarding, mineral that it is awarding, is through open auction only. Economy. It is objectivity that should be there. Now, economy is about obtaining input at the right cost, but your problem does not end there. As an organization, you are very much concerned what happens, between input and output. And now you want to maximize the output with respect to input, and that we call as efficiency, that how efficient we are. Now, Rajiv Gandhi, famously said that if you spend 1 rupee, then only 14 paisa reaches Indian people. So basically, the efficiency was so poor that 86% of the money was going to the pockets of the people, pockets of the middlemen, then to the people, then to the actual beneficiaries. So of course, you will want that there should be better efficiency of your organization. Then you need to get the most from the input that you are doing. Understood or not? So you need to, any organization, you talk about any organization. Now, any organization cannot survive. Let's forget about the government, because, let us talk about private organizations. You are running any business. Can your business survive if you are inefficient? Can you survive? You will not survive. You have to be efficient in what you are doing, otherwise you will not survive. The competitors will outgrow you, simply. You will be redundant. You have to be efficient, you have to be economic. And at the same time, you have to be effective as well. At the same time, you have to be effective as well. Now, what does effectiveness means? How many of you have heard of the term outlays, output and outcome? You know the difference between these terms? Suppose government is saying that we are building 100 kilometer of road, or let's say government is saying that we are building 100 toilets by spending 50 lakh of rupees. Then 50 lakh of rupees is basically outlay, expenditure that government is doing. The physical output that you are creating is basically output, and that is yes, 100 toilets, let's say it is building. Now, the problem is that, especially in the context of bureaucracy, the bureaucracy often consider its task fulfilled when it achieves output. That we have built 1 lakh toilet, we have built 1 lakh schools, we have built so many classrooms, and it will do this chest thumping. And they will also get a presidential reward also. But what was the objective of building the toilet in the first place? Cleanliness. The people should use it. That is the outcome that one should strive for. Understood or not? What was the objective of creating education institutions in the first place? Learning outcome. So you should not do this chest thumping just by creating 100 schools, for example. You should perhaps do the chest thumping when you know that learning outcomes have improved, because that is the true objective of education. So now this difference between output and outcome is decided by what? Because you can hold the government accountable for outputs, but suppose they say that we have built the toilet and people are not using it. What is our fault? We have built the schools, but perhaps the children are not very, meritorious, and that is why learning levels are so low. So the difference between output and outcome is basically ethics. Because it requires dedication of public service on the part of civil servant to look beyond output and take care of outcomes, that they be effective in what they are doing. I will give you an example. Armstrong Payne, the example all of you would have heard. Yes, that he built, a certain kilometer of road by crowdfunding. Now I am telling you, just imagine that people have gone to him that please build the road. He could have said that we do not have the money to spend in the first place. We do not have money. We do not have sanctions. We do not have sanctions. And it would have been legal. It would have been his right to do so. Because if he does not have money, what more he can do? Yes or no? But then he went beyond that and, innovated and crowdfunded the entire road. Because he was more concerned about the outcome, that these two areas should be well connected. And that difference, what do you think? What made that difference? We have seen so many officers, but what made Armstrong Payne different than other officers is his commitment to ethics, that is dedication to public service. So those are the kind of examples that you need to give when you are talking about ethics. Now, he had all the right to do. He had all the right to reject that, I do not have money, I cannot build the road. He had all the right to do that. But was it the right thing to do? This first right is the entitlement he had, because he simply did not have money. And second right is the righteousness, that what will that action would have been right. I'm asking you. No, that action would have not been right, because that officer needs to go beyond, what is, go beyond that. And that difference between that right and this right is called ethics. How many of you can recall this statement? कितने लोग recall कर पा रहे हैं? बाकी लोग पहली बार सुन रहे हैं. Again, this is PYQ. I will bring this theme again and again, that the difference between right and right ethics, that you go beyond your call of duty at times and help people. So if you want to be effective, then only the organization which is truly committed to people welfare, which is truly committed to constitutional morality, that will only go and step ahead and see that now we need to ensure attitudinal change of the people and perhaps do the Darwaza Band campaign. And perhaps now we cannot be, just boast ourselves that we have implemented so many girls' colleges and schools, and perhaps we need to change the attitude of the people by doing this Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao campaign. So basically, when we become outcome oriented, it is important that, that outcome orientation is basically ensure that organization achieves its objective, final objective. And that is only possible when organization is ethical, because if it is not ethical, it can always hide behind the rules and say that no, so many things can be said. Show me the man, I will show you the rule. That kind of thing can be done. Then you talk about the work culture. If the work culture is not ethical, suppose the work culture is like that it rewards sycophants. Work culture is like that the boss, that boss loves sycophancy. He rewards the people who are sycophants rather than the people who are working hard. What will be the morale of the workforce? It will be very low. Will the organization have more efficiency? It will never have the efficiency. Understood? So that is what you need to understand, work culture. So when you do that, when you become ethical in your treatment of the employee, when you are fair to them, then it promotes efficiency of the organization. It raises their productivity. Suppose the organization is discriminating amongst the employee on the basis of caste, on the basis of sex, on the basis of region and religion. Will the efficiency be high or low? It will be low, because you will never attract the best talent. You will never attract the best talent. In second ARC, one line is there that UPSC has, commendable respect. It has earned commendable respect with respect to recruitment of the public services. But unfortunately, the same thing cannot be said about other state public service commission. And that is why you see this phenomenon that many of the aspirants don't opt for the state civil services, because they believe that the recruitment is not done fairly there. It is not merit based. Only the organization which is fair to its employee, rewarding the work, efficiency and the merit, it will only attract the best talent. For example, talk about Google. Talking about credibility, the organizations like UPSC, Tata, they carry lot of credibility. When you talk about Tata, you believe that they will be taking care of your customers. They will not just, leave you stranded on the road when, something goes wrong. And that is a brand value that you earn over a period of time, and that you only earn when you behave ethically, because then people start believing in you. You start having this credibility, and because of this credibility, you have strong brand value and profitability. In the morning I was talking about this example that various edtech companies, they are not profitable. The edtech scenario now, at this point of time in our country is not very good actually. So various countries, various edtech companies, they are not profitable. Why they are not profitable? Because they are spending lot of money. A term is there that is called customer acquisition cost, CAC. Because they are spending lot of money to acquire one customer. Suppose a customer is buying the course for 40,000 and they are spending 80,000 to acquire that customer, in the context of advertisement, sales team and everything. So the company will never become profitable. Now, why this company has to endure, so much of marketing cost? Because it does not have that much amount of credibility in amongst students. That students value that perhaps, this course will benefit them. And that is why it needs to spend so much amount of money on advertisement and sales and so on and so forth. So when you are ethical, when you work hard, when you are sincere in your goods and services, then automatically word of mouth will always be there. And that word of mouth will automatically reduce your sales cost. It will reduce your marketing cost, and that is how it will help you in long run. It will make you profitable, it will make you more efficient, and it will help you in becoming a brand, that your customer will love. So that is, a line is there that good ethics is good business. If you are ethical, then automatically it will make it a good business. Understood? Now, if you are not ethical, then what will happen? All of you know the Satyam scam? Now a few days before, there was this paper is still there. In the morning, I was showing this paper to students. The Hyundai IPO was there, and it was publishing various facts and figure. Yes, that this is our financial performance and everything. And now you can make informed decision that whether you should invest or not. But suppose these numbers are inflated. Suppose Hyundai, has, manipulated the numbers. What will happen? Initially, it might get the, more investment, more attraction, but later truth will be out. And then the share price will fall like anything. And this is what, happened when you're talking about Satyam scam. They manipulated the company book so much so that, just to jack up the profit and, raise the share price. And look, ultimately what happened. Shelf life of lie is very small, and you see. You talk about Yes Bank controversy also. You see the share price of Yes Bank now. So if you are unethical, if you are not following the right corporate governance practices, then this is something that will happen. When you are becoming too much greedy, you talk about banks. Now banks make profits when they dole out loans. Yes, because loans are their assets. But when you become too greedy about doling out your loans, then it may just happen that you are not doing the due diligence when you are disbursing your loans. Then your loans or assets will become non-performing assets because you are not doing the due diligence. You are so greed-driven that you are not even verifying whether your consumers, your customers can actually pay you back or not. And then it will be NPA only. So basically, organizations, if they are ethical, it will make them more profitable. They will have, better brand value, and they will be able to attain and attract, best talent of the country. Productivity and efficiency of the workforce will be high. Customer will love them, and automatically it will lead to brand value. And they need not spend so much amount of money on marketing and advertisements actually. You talk about these Bollywood movies, we see that now there is a trend that these Bollywood producers, in initial phase of the, just after the movie is released, they only themselves buy the tickets. And that is why when you open the app, on Paytm or Book My Show and everything, you see their seats are booked. But when you actually go to the, hall, you see that there are many empty seats that are there. So this is done to just, jack up that, the demand supply mismatch is there, perhaps the film is very good. But then ultimately what happens? Ultimately people realize that this is not a good movie to watch, and word of mouth will again triumph. So again, good ethics is good business. Understood? So now we understand that individuals, why they need to be ethical. Now we understand organizations, why they need to be ethical. Now let us talk about societies. Now suppose the question comes that why societies have to be ethical? Why society should follow right ethical standards? So if suppose this question comes stand alone, then you will just break down society, because it has various manifestations. When we are talking about society, we are talking about social axis, we are talking about cultural axis, we are talking about economic axis, political axis, environmental axis, legal axis. And then we see all these parameters that what actually is the consequences of ethical standards when society actually follows it. Let us talk about social axis. Can human capital be ever formed in a society that believes in patriarchy? You tell me, human capital, understand? Health, nutrition, skills, basically, that builds you. And that is why we see that so many women are anemic in our country. So malnutrition of women is not just because of food insecurity, it is also because of patriarchy. So human capital will not be formed because women are not treated fairly. Society, very much important. You talk about education. If society collectively believes in the education, that we need to get all these degrees just to qualify exam and just to, perform this grade-oriented nation, grade-oriented intention is there when we are studying, then what will happen? Will we ever get the real skill? We will never get the real skill because always we are studying just to pass the exam. And that is why we see that 60% of the engineers are not employable. The real skill is not there. Human capital is not there. Society will lose out on human capital. Skill gap will always be there. Because society collectively is focusing on just passing out from the examination, just clearing the examination, not the real skill, not the real value. What will happen? You are promoting valueless education. Yes, we talk about these paper leaks. The paper leaks are happening because there is demand for these leaked papers. If suppose all the children, all the students and their parents, they decide that we will not pay for any such leaked paper, the problem will vanish like anything. So I am telling you that society collectively, if it believes in something wrong, if it celebrates material success over, even when the material success is the result of unethical means, then it will deserve the kind of society it becomes. And that's why you see the problem of corruption is not just the problem of politicians. The problem of corruption is there because society collectively believes in materialism. That you need to have so much of wealth irrespective of means that you are adopting. And when you have this perception, and that is why you see, you get the kind of government that you deserve. That is why there is so much of role of money, power, and everything is there. You talk about society that is intolerant of other religious belief pattern. What will be that kind of, would you like to live in that kind of society? That society will never prosper. Intolerant societies have never prospered. I will give you an example. Earlier there was this belief that Earth, it is at the center of the universe. Sun is going around the Earth. Geocentric belief was there. That Earth is at the center of entire universe. But when one scientist, he stood against it, I think Galileo. Yes, when he stood against it and he said, no, it is actually heliocentrism. Sun is at the center of universe. Then he was punished for that. Society that could not tolerate the different opinion, will that society will ever progress? It will never progress. Because for progress to happen, you need to question ideas. And that is why, we respect Age of Enlightenment so much, because it questioned the prevalent belief pattern. And that is why 19th century, when we also got enlightenment, when Sati Pratha and everything, we got that because there were social reformers that dared to question prevalent patterns, prevalent cultural belief pattern. So tolerance. So society is not tolerant, it will not prosper. It will not have scientific advancements. So tolerance. So on social axis, if we are ethical, then we will have more prosperity, value-based education will be there will be human capital formation that will be there. You talk about cultural axis. Now when we think of Japan, we think of Japan as a more disciplined society that loves cleanliness. But when we think of Afghani society, what we think? We think of society that is not respecting its women. So talk about cultural heritage that we are creating, cultural capital we are creating. We discuss the example of various society, tribal society, urban society, rural society. So basically, the kind of society we live in, it has lot of impact on kind of values we are creating, kind of heritage we are creating. In urban society, the level of social capital is very low. You understand social capital? The mutual bond and trust that is there. In urban society, since people are so individualistic, in orientation, and that is why this collective social capital is very, very low. And that is why you see in urban society, there are numerous instances that the road accident victim is lying on the road and people are filming it instead of helping that person. It is all happening because of lack of social capital, because society believes in individualism rather than collectivism and solidarity. So, would you like to live in that kind of society which does not have social capital, which does not have solidarity? In UPSC, one case study was there that you are going to, attend the UPSC interview and there is a relative that is lying on the road because of accident. What would you do? So that is the argument that you can make, that I would definitely attend to the victim, because if I don't attend the victim and that becomes a universal law as per Kant, then I would not like to live in that kind of society. Because if I was in his place, in the victim's place, then I would perhaps expect that people should help me instead of taking my photographs and getting all those views. You understood? So you would not like to live in that kind of culture. So social, soft power, cultural heritage, you talk about soft power. Now India, collectively believes in non-violence. It is a peace-loving country, collectively. Yes, we are a peace-loving society. We don't believe in violence. So even when we acquired nuclear weapons, we said that we will not be having no first use policy. And we were model nuclear citizen, and that is why we earned, the kind of social, soft power and kind of credibility that we got NSG waiver letter. And that is how soft power helps you. That is how you get all that credibility, and that is how people helps you. Cultural access. You talk about society from the economic perspective, you talk about fair competition. Suppose if chronic capitalism is there, will there ever be fair competition? Will you promote innovation? You will not promote. So if you are not being ethical in market economy, you will not survive. You talk about capitalism, extreme form of capitalism. Extreme form of capitalism is bad or not? It is unethical, there is no doubt about it, because the owners are cornering all the profit. They are jacking all the profit, and they are giving meager wages to the workers. And suppose all the people are doing that only, then what will happen? What will happen? There will not be any demand in the society. You are producing goods and services at mass level and you want to earn a lot of profit, but you are not giving wages to the workers. So who will buy your goods and services? Ultimately, no, the economy will enter into recession. And that is why you see after Industrial Revolution, there were recessions. A periodic cycle of recession was there. In this great economic depression, what were the measures that were there as part of New Deal? They were welfare measures only. Measures that put money in the hands of people. So, economically also, if we think, if we are ethical, if we believe in inclusiveness, then only the cycle of economy will run properly. Then only market economic forces will run properly. If we tinker with it, then it will be inefficiency and market will collapse. Yes or no? Economic access. Talk about politically. Then society that does not believe in democracy, it does not believe in the rights of the people. So that is the kind of society that you would have to live in. If collectively society does not prefer that, if it does not follow the ethical standards of liberty and democracy. Administration we will discuss later. Similarly, environment. Society that collectively does not prioritize ethically, does not prioritize sustainability, then environmentally it will be forced to live, in an environment, that will be riddled with so many extreme climatic events. So that is how it will impact the society. Similarly, you talk about judiciary, if judiciary, society collectively is not believing in justice, what will happen? Justice delayed is justice denied. Yes, and we see that at times, justice is not done. Conviction is not done within time. And because of that, there is growing penchant among the people that there should be instant justice. And that is when they take law into their own hand and they indulge in mob violence. So you will be producing a society that will be believing in instant justice rather than the due process of justice, because you are not ensuring justice in time. Understood? You talk about human rights, societies, if it is related with casteism, racism, then you are not respecting human rights of the individuals. You are not treating them with dignity. So basically, if we are not following ethical standards at societal level from different axes we see, then that is not the kind of society that we would like to live in. But if you want to give positive example, you always give the example of tribal society in the context of environment. Bhutan also you can give the example. Yes, you give the example of Kerala, in terms of human capital. You give the example of India in terms of tolerance, unity and diversity, everything. That is the kind of example that you can give. So now when you are answering, how does ethics help society? So you will be just opening that societal dimension from these many perspectives and not just writing the broad dimension of, so and so forth. And that is how you will be generating depth in your answer. Now let us see some of the questions. Let us see this theme, that how does ethics contribute to social and human well-being? Now you understand this question. You are talking about human well-being, then you can talk about at individual level, how does it help you, and then at societal level, you just break down the term at different cultural axis, social axis, and all those axes we discussed. And that is how you will be writing the answer. Now, if you just look at this theme, this theme is very much clear. The theme is that how does ethics, help something? This something can be individual, this something can be society, this something can be private organization, this something can be public organization, this something can be market economy, this something can be anything. So either UPSC will ask that how does ethics help anything of this, or it will just simply give a particular type of ethical standards. For example, how does tolerance help societies grow? Tolerance is a type of ethics only. How does integrity help individual well-being, human well-being? So it has just specified a type of ethical standard here in this question. How does social capital help society? I think the question has been asked. So now you see, all these questions are same questions only. So let us just look at this question. How ethics contribute to social and human well-being? How does ethics is to promote human life? Why it is all the more important public administration? This is basically public administration, organization, public organization, private organization. Then CSR makes companies more profitable and sustainable. Basically consequence of ethics for private, because this CSR is nothing but ethical standard for corporate governance. So how ethics in the context of private sector is helping them? So consequence of ethics, it is there. Are you able to understand that all these things are same thing only? Without commonly shared and widely entrenched moral values and obligations, is nothing but what are commonly shared values? Nothing but ethical standards. So without them, neither law nor democratic government nor market economy will function properly. Very understood. Again, the consequence of ethics, that if we don't follow ethics, market economy will not function properly, law will not function properly, the legal access that we just discussed, and democratic government will also not function properly. The dimension of administration that we did not discuss, but we will discuss subsequently. Similarly, it is believed adherence to ethics in human action will ensure a smooth functioning of an organization. Consequence of ethics for organization. If so, how does ethics is to promote human life? How do ethical value assist in resolution of conflicts faced by individual? You talk about this question. Discuss the role of ethics and values in enhancing three major component of comprehensive national power. एक फर्जी टर्म दे दिया इन्होंने. Ultimately you see what is there? Human capital. How ethics is promoting human capital? How ethics is promoting soft power? How ethics is promoting social harmony? And as I told you, you will not be differentiating much in ethics and value here. अगर यहाँ डिफरेंशिएट क्रिएट करने चले गए तो आंसर नहीं लिख पाओगे कि वैल्यू तो सर एमोरल भी हो सकती हैं, इमोरल भी हो सकती हैं. ठीक है, ऐसा सोचोगे तो कभी आंसर नहीं लिख पाओगे, है ना. तो डोंट ओवर थिंक, बट हियर जस्ट आंसर द क्वेश्चन. Integrity is a value that empowers human being. So ethics is a value that empowers human being. I have specified a type of ethical standard, that is integrity, how integrity empowers human being. So now all of you understand that no, all these questions are one and same only. They are asked in different context. Do you understand that or not? Yes? Now I will give you another thing. Let us say you are asked that CSR makes companies more profitable and sustainable. Now some of the base argument that we have already studied, economy, efficiency, effectiveness, merit, our culture and everything, brand value, profitability. Some other argument we will learn when we study corporate governance. So 6-7 argument you are having here, another 10-12 argument you will have there. So total you will have at least 18 to 20 arguments to write if you want. How does integrity help you, as human being? Now again, same thing. You talk about generically how integrity will help you as human being, and also you talk about how integrity helps you, in your role as administrator. That also you can include. So because that you will teach in Foundation Value of Civil Services. Why ethics is important in public administration? Again, same thing. The base argument will be same: economy, efficiency, effectiveness, brand value, everything. And why we should be ethical in public administration, I will teach you separately also when we discuss ethical dilemmas in government and private institutions. So we will get better arguments there. And also the argument for null committee principles and Foundation Value of Civil Services that we will study. So basically now you see how you will be writing, how you will be generating points actually. Now you see that? Yes? Point will be the same if integrity is asked or ethics directly for individual. Yes, you can see. You tell me. How does integrity helps in human? क्या लिखा हुआ है? How does integrity empowers human being? It helps him, in credibility. Is a good point or bad point? Yes or no? It helps him in, becoming courageous person. You give the example of Satyendra Dubey. Yes or no? और क्या लिखा हुआ था हमने? Yes, integrity helps in making someone happy because ultimately he is having clear conscience. That answer also you can write. Then integrity helps you in living the life of human. Again the same thing. Apart from that, you can also include the argument from administration that you will discuss later. So now you are understanding that how if we cover this theme, all these things are same only, and that is what you are supposed to write. Understood or not? ऑनलाइन वालों आपको समझ में आया है? ये ऊपर करना जरा सा, एक क्वेश्चन उन्होंने पूछा था, उनका नाम क्या है? सोहानी जी, आपको समझ में आया? Did you understand? Of course, there will be more point that you will add later from integrity perspective, but broadly तो हम समझ सकते हैं कि that is what we can write. स्ट्रक्चर हम डिस्कस करेंगे, आप क्या चिंता कर रहे हैं? इन सेक्शन में विल बी डिस्कसिंग द मिनी टेस्ट. But all of you have got this basic understanding that when we are studying a topic, we should study from the perspective of application. So when we are talking about social well-being, we will be discussing from those many access point of view. Then only you will generate so many dimensions. Otherwise, it will be very, very difficult to do so in the actual examination. Is this part clear or not? Yes? Understood everyone? Online वालों please बताइए so that I can discuss ahead. Please tell me if you have understood everything so far. All notes means what? Jagdish, I am not getting your question at all. Notes I have not given to you yet. I will give you tomorrow. Administrative access means that what kind of administration society will have if it is not following ethical standards. So if society believes in corruption, then the bureaucracy will also be corrupt. So when you are having this traffic signal, the red light, you are violating that red light, then instead of getting fine, you will be offering them bribe because you don't believe in ethics, you believe in corruption, and that is why the bureaucracy will also be corrupt. So that is the meaning of administration. I will not discuss that because there will be a lot of discussion on administration separately. That is why. How ethics helps in day-to-day functioning? See, how does it help in day-to-day functioning? It makes you help decision, all those things you have to write. I will discuss individual questions later, okay? But overall, I think you got the point that all these things are one and all same only. Yes? आज आगे चला जाए ऑनलाइन वालों. Individual question we will discuss. That is why there are 6 mini tests for section A. There I will exactly tell you what you need to write. But if I do that right here, then it will be problematic. And that is why those questions I discuss after completing entire syllabus, because then only you can interlink so many topics. You can write negative perspective only, and that I will teach you definitely when you write section A answer writing. I think it was my mistake that I included this questions here. आप बहुत ज़्यादा सोच रहे हैं. आप ऐसा मुझे सोचवा देंगे तो गड़बड़ हो जाएगा. You will do the questions and I will tell you, and that is why I don't give the question in between, because क्योंकि आपको नहीं पता ना पूरा syllabus. How will you interlink all those concepts? So let us move towards the next topic. अच्छा फोटो आपको खींचने होंगे ना. Done? Please don't share the photos. Just keep them to yourself, even to your friends. If friends are sincere enough, they will themselves come to the class and take photos. Done? Whenever you talk about society, think from different axes, no? Done? Example for organization वाला पेज तो कुछ भी लिख लीजिए. I will give you various other examples in corporate governance. Done? हो गया? So the next important topic is dimensions of ethics. Dimensions of ethics. So when we are talking about dimensions of ethics, we are talking about theoretical dimensions and applied dimension. Theoretical dimensions and applied dimension. So basically, applied dimensions are nothing but application of this body of knowledge in a particular context. Suppose you are in a media organization. Then if you are in a media organization, you are supposed to follow ethical standards which may be different than if you are in bureaucracy. which may be different than if you are dealing with environment, which may be different than if you are dealing with technology, for example. So this is nothing but evolution of various theoretical aspects of the ethical standards, and this is basically the application of those ethical standards in a specific context. This applied aspects, it is very much important. A, there can be the direct question from this part, just like it was asked this year, and B, there will be questions that you will be solving in your case study that will be having different context. For example, the case study that you deal with, that deals with business context, so there you will talk about consumer rights, if you are talking about right perspective. Here, this normative ethics will tell you that right school of ethics is there, that there you need to talk about rights. But you have to apply that when you are dealing with business ethics, you have to see whether consumer rights are honored or not. Understood? Yes or no? That is what you need to see, whether consumer rights are honored or not. But if you are dealing with government, then you have to see whether let's say citizen rights are honored or not. All I am telling you that in different contexts, the perspective of right will be different. In the context of environment, the rights may mean animal rights also, for example. So that is how the applied dimensions of ethics are. Then what are the theoretical dimensions of ethics? What about the global consequence of ethics? I will tell you in the topic ethics in IR. There we will discuss that why we should follow ethical standard in the context of international relation. So what are the dimensions of ethics, theoretical dimensions of ethics? So one school of thought is normative dimension of ethics. What does normative means? What? Yes, what you should do. All of you have heard organizational norms. What are norms? Norms are prescription of behavior. That is how we should behave. They are prescriptory in nature. Yes? So this school of thought will say that that you have to do your duty, that you have to follow the right means irrespective of the ends. This school of thought will say, no, forget about means, think about the ends. This school of thought will say, forget about actions, think about the actor, think about the character. So basically, the right approach will say some other thing. So basically, different school of thought will say different things. They will prescribe different things. They will prescribe different standards based on which we will judge the ethicality of human action. Understood? This school of thought will say differently. So basically, normative school of thought deals with prescriptions, that what are the various prescriptions of ethical standards. How should we consider which ethical standard is right, which human action is right, which human action is wrong. We will deal with all this school of ethics in Western thinkers and philosophers. Okay, we will not discuss it now. But then this school of thought is mostly descriptive in nature. It is not telling you how ethical standards should be. It is simply telling you how ethical standards are. There's difference. For example, if I tell you that you are lazy students, then it is descriptive or prescriptive? It is descriptive. I am merely describing your characteristic, that you are lazy students. All of you are smiling. So, आपको कैसे पता चला है? ऐसे. So, this is descriptive. And if I tell you, all of you should work hard, then it is prescriptive. It is normative. I am prescribing you that this is what you should do. So, that is the difference between descriptive school of thought and normative school of thought. In descriptive school of thought, basically, you tell people that how are ethical standards. This school of thought will say they are relative in nature, they will keep on changing with time. And this school of thought will say they are absolute in nature. Understood? And then it will be meta-ethics. Meta-ethics is basically philosophical aspect of ethics. It deals with the ethics itself, that what is the need to study ethics in the first place, what is right, why we should, bother about it. And this is something that we will also not bother about much, because it is not much important from the perspective of your examination. This is something that we will bother about. This I will teach you in Western Thinkers and Philosophers. This we will discuss, that what is descriptive school of ethics. Now, there is one school of thought that says that ethical standards are absolute in nature. They do not change with time. They do not change with place. They do not change with context. Wherever you go, you will find the same ethical standards, and it is called ethical absolutism. It says that irrespective of whether you are born in Africa, irrespective of whether you are born in America, irrespective you are born as a Christian or as a Hindu or as a Muslim, irrespective if you are born in a particular time, the standards are same. They are same for everyone. So it is called ethical absolutism. It does not believe in changing of ethical standards with time. On the other hand, ethical relativism says that ethical standards depends upon social cultural context. That depends upon the circumstances. That is what it will say. Ethical relativism. Understood? Understood? Ethical absolutism will say that there are certain ethical standards like love, dignity, justice that are there in every society. That in family we are supposed to love each other, and it will be same whether we go to America, whether we go to Africa, whether we go to India. We are supposed to love each other in family. We are supposed to treat each other with utmost dignity, no matter wherever we go. Talk about justice, that we should be fair to everyone, no matter in whichever society, in whichever time we live in. So fairness, basically it is talking about certain ethical standards that are common to all society, and that does not change with time. But then, there are certain merits of this school of thought, that yes, it is right. It is right. There are certain universal standards by virtue of human existence, that ultimately all of us are human only. American, African, South Indian, North Indian, all of us are humans only. And since all of us are equal human beings, we deserve the same dignity. We deserve the same dignified treatment, and that is why, yes, there are absolute ethical standards that are there. There cannot be any question about it. And since they are equally applicable to everyone, they are fair also. It is easy to follow also. Because they are not changing with time, it becomes easy to follow that. And it also helps you in avoiding slippery slope. You know slippery slope? You know that? Don't know the term? It is very much important. You will be writing that term very frequently in your case studies. Let us say you are a PDS officer, and you are a PDS officer, and elderly women come to you, for ration and everything. And that woman, why are you noting? I will give you time to note and take photo. Then what will you do in that time? Then you will get this urge that I should go to washroom. और कोई काम तो है नहीं अभी 2-4 मिनट के लिए. And when I am teaching in foundation course, पता नहीं क्या है बेटे. As soon as I stop, so that the people can take photo of the slides, there will be people who will stand up and start going to washroom. एक एक करके. अभी क्लास को आधा घंटा हुआ है, 45 मिनट हुआ है. They will go to washroom. वो कल्चर है, I think. The classroom culture is there. आप फाउंडेशन से ही हो. So that culture is there. No, as soon as I change the slide, people will go outside. पता नहीं कितना है. You imagine, my class is only of 2.5 hours, and you talk about that means examination, it is of 3 hours. How will they survive there? they start going to toilet, just after half an hour, they will miss out on the paper only. So let us talk about slippery slope. So suppose you are PDS officer, and a woman come to you, an elderly woman come to you, and she's hungry and everything, but she's not having the eligibility criteria or the documents with her. And then you break the law and you give the ration to her because you believe that she is very poor and that she will not survive otherwise. So you are breaking the law because you want to help that person. Yes? Next day, since you have already broken the law, next day you will think that perhaps you are also poor. Your wife, she has been demanding you that that you must give her some necklace, and everything. You are also not having iPhone, so you are equally poor. So next day you will break the law to help you instead of helping other people. So you start breaking the law ostensibly for good reason, but then ultimately it comes back to you and you start breaking them for your own selfish reason. Understood? Understood or not? So that is what slippery slope is all about. If you do a sin once, it is easy to do it again. And that is the argument that you will write in all the case studies when you one of the option will always be there that you break the law. So when you break the law, that is the standard demerit of that chosen option, that it will promote slippery slope. Ultimately, you will be slipping only all the time. Just take your own example. Yes. As soon as you study very regularly for 3 days, you feel like, you have done so much of hard work that now you should take break. Yes, and then you tell that to yourself that today I will not study for 10 hours, I will study for 7 hours, or let's say 8 hours, and then I will take break of 2 hours because I deserve that. Then you break the discipline and you start taking your break of 2 hours. And that 2 hours become 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, because you don't sleep that night. Yes, and then you sleep at 6 a.m. next day. And then next year's day will also be part of slippery slope only. Of course, you will not study the regular 10 hour next day. Because once you start breaking the discipline, it becomes easy to do it again and again. Same argument, slippery slope. How many of you can relate to that? Yes. Your example only. Yes. So that is how ethical absolutism helps us, in avoiding slippery slope. But then it also have standard demerits. The demerits are that what are the universal standards? Kant may say that you have to follow the right means all the time. Utilitarian perspective may say that you have to follow ends all the time. What is the right standard? And then there is a debate that is there. And in deciding of those, absolute standard, often power equation matters. When this rule was decided that, patriarchy, that the women should not study, they should not, take part in these kind of roles, that the Dalits should not also study. Would those, laws be framed by women or people from lower caste? No. So power equation always matter. So if you believe in ethical absolutism and if you are not democratic and if you don't believe in the rights of others, then those laws can become actually inhuman to some people. So that is a standard demerit that is there of ethical absolutism, that power equation matter. Could you please repeat what is slippery slope? हिंदी में कैसे बोलेंगे इसको? फिसल गए आप. ठीक है, एकदम यही है, फिसल गए आप. तो यही स्लिपरी स्लोप है. So initially, suppose you are studying hard, and initially you take the break because you want to rejuvenate yourself. But then आप फिसल जाते हैं उस rejuvenation में, and that rejuvenation will then never end. आप फिसल गए 3-4 दिन के लिए. So that is what slippery slope is all about. Administration, often you make break law to help someone. All these encounters, gaadi palta do. Yes, because you want instant justice. So initially the society is celebrating, gaadi palta do, instant form of justice. But later, if it becomes norms, then they will just, turn the vehicle of any opponent that is opposing their views. That is what slippery slope is all about. Initially, you do it for good reasons, and then you find reasons to do it. That is what slippery slope is all about. So, राम जी समझ में आ गया आपको? ये बीच में टॉयलेट चले गए होंगे मुझे लग रहा है. जब ये लौट के आए तो उन्होंने देखा कि स्लिपरी स्लोप चल रहा है. आज का मौसम स्लिपरी स्लोप का. तो सर बताइए मौसम कैसे आया? Because I gave you 2 examples and I repeated those examples just now. Okay, चलो हो जाता है. So basically power equation matters. So if you are ethical absolutist, then it also ignores diversity. The people may have different opinion. How many of you believe that some heinous crime, if it has happened against women, that a person should be given death penalty? How many of you believe in death penalty? In the heinous crime against women, that death penalty should happen. How many of you believe in that? Okay. And how many of you believe that death penalty should not be there? So see, so here also we see that there is people who are divided. Handout tomorrow. So here also we see that a different opinion that is there. In abortion, religious belief may tell you that it is wrong to abort a child, because it is also a form of human life. It is equivalent to murder. But then the women may say that it is my body, my choice. That ultimately, I also have right of bodily autonomy, because it is not you who will be impacted, it is me who will be impacted. The doctor may say that, it is all right to do the abortion because I need to save the patient's life. But then law may say that abortion is illegal. The women may say that this pregnancy is a result of rape, so I don't want this child. But then some people may say that no, it is wrong. So I'm telling you that there is diversity of opinion on various aspects. And ethical absolutism does not respect that diversity of opinion. It promotes a sort of intolerance, and consequently it resists growth and development of the society. Understood? Understood or not? अब नोट करिए, पावर इक्वेशन मैटर्स. अभी बताया ना कि जो महिलाओं पे इतनी सारी बंदिशें लगाई गई, तो वो बंदिशें महिलाओं तो नहीं बनाई होंगी अपने लिए, है ना. अनटचेबिलिटी का जो लॉ बनाया गया कास्ट सिस्टम का, तो ऐसा थोड़ा है कि जो लोअर कास्ट के लोग आके बोले होंगे कि हाँ भाई हम अनटचेबल हैं आज से, जो अपर कास्ट के लोगों ने बनाया होगा. सो जब आप एब्सोल्यूट स्टैंडर्ड बनाते हो तब ये हमेशा प्रॉब्लम रहता है कि वो जो पीपल हु आर इन पावर इट फेवर्स दैम. जी, एक ग्रेटर नहीं है, ग्रेटर और वो वाला साइन नहीं है ये. इट इज फ्लोइंग फ्रॉम दैट. पावर इक्वेशन मैटर्स एंड दैट इज व्हाई फेवर्स दोज विद पावर. People who are in powerful positions, they can make, if they make the law which is absolute in nature, it will favor them. The example that I just gave you, higher caste and men, it is not greater and lesser. It is not that. Yes? तो लिख लीजिए अब इसको, फिर अगला एक संग लिख लेना. Okay, so in this context, let us talk about ethical relativism, which says that often, because of different needs of time, we may need different thing. So you talk about capital punishment, that how earlier, the form of justice was that the bodily amputation will be there, the limb amputation, it will be there, and it was considered form of justice, but now it will be considered inhuman. Capital punishment, more than 100 countries, I think 160 countries, they do not have death penalty in their law books. So how, with time, concept of justice is actually evolving. At times, you may need to, take care of the special needs of the people. Earlier, we believed that we will not have reservation on the basis of economic criteria, but then we realized that, we need to do so. So that is why we came up with EWS. Earlier, corporates were not required to part with some percentage of their profit for CSR activities, but law now provides for that. that CSR activities should be there. So it allows to cater to the special needs of the people, and that is why ethical relativism has merit. It promotes diversity. Because each of us can have different opinion and each of us can be right in our own sense. Some of you might believe that Ayurveda is the right way to treat people. Some of us may believe, no, I will follow allopathy only. Yes, and there can be coexistence of all these streams. So the imposition of the worldview of some other culture, it can be avoided if we are following ethical relativism. Earlier, colonialism, it was defended, in the notion that it was the white man's burden to civilize these countries. So basically, they were under the assumption that they were justifying the colonialism because they believed that it is helping people. They're civilizing those people. But ethical relativism will say that, it will promote cultural relativism basically. It will promote tolerance basically in societies. Now, we will not impose our worldview. All of you know this Niyamgiri case. It is a very good example of democracy, working in our country. How handful of powerless, poor tribals, they made a multi-billion-dollar company go away. And that can only happen in democracy. Very good case study, very good case study. Because, the people came and they said, there is a uranium, and, the minerals are there in the Niyamgiri hills. And they said that we don't want those minerals. Because we believe that our ancestor is living at this place. Now, you cannot rationally argue with that. So, at times you have to respect others' opinion also. That they don't want so much of material development. They want perhaps spiritual development or, holistic development. So that is how it promotes tolerance. So if we look at it from the perspective of Western world or industrialists, then perhaps this action was wrong, ethical absolutism. But if we look at it from the perspective of democracy or from the perspective of tribals, then this action was right. So ethical relativism allows you to become tolerant and cater to the diversity of views and to take care of the changing needs of the society and to take care of the evolution of concept of justice with time. So those are the merits of ethical relativism. But the biggest demerit is that if we believe in relative standard too much, then of course, the very important demerit is that of course there are certain universal standards by virtue of human existence. Now Afghanistan society cannot say, that since we are, a sovereign country and we have our own way of governing people, and that is why you cannot question that we are not allowing our women any freedom. You cannot question that because our culture is unique. So absolute ethical relativism may actually at times promote authoritarianism because it does not allow other people to question you. You will always hide behind the idea of cultural relativism that every culture is unique, and that is why you should not question it. And that is why when the Sabarimala, it was outlawed by the Supreme Court, before that people were telling that it is our religious practice, you should not interfere in that. So extreme form of cultural relativism may actually, it can actually make some society intolerant, because they will always justify those wrong cultural notions in the name of cultural relativism that we are unique and that is why we will follow it. And you should not impose your cultural point of view on us. But they forget that irrespective of the culture, all of us are humans only, and that is why all of us deserve some form of universal treatment, dignified treatment. Understood? And that is why triple talaq, when it was termed wrong, many people will say that, it is wrong thing to do because you are tampering with our cultural traditions. But then again, it is not the idea of human dignity. So basically, that is the biggest demerit of ethical relativism, that at times obvious moral wrongs can be justified in the name of cultural relativism, like Afghanistan example that I gave you, or the example of triple talaq, or the example of Sabarimala temple. it undermines the possibility of society being self-critical because you are believing too much in relativism. Every opinion you are justifying in the name of relativism that yes, you are different. And ultimately, that is how it promotes authoritarianism. So now, what do we believe? That whether ethical standards are relative in nature or universal in nature. Sabarimala case. So we see that, the argument, the conclusion that you will write is that yes, both universal and relative standards exist, and now we see there is increasing harmonization between these standards because of globalization and ICT. Because of this globalization, now we understand that how Afghani women are being treated there. Now because of globalization, all of us have this collective understanding, common understanding that every human being deserves dignified treatment, and that is why those Afghani women also deserve dignified treatment, and that is why that sort of relativism will not work there. And that is why this globalization has led to universal declaration of human rights, that is nothing but harmonization of the ethical standard, that these are the ethical standards which are applicable to every cultural society, no matter what, and every human being deserves those standards. Understood or not? Yes? SDG goals, Paris Climate Agreement, all these are example of that only. That we are harmonizing the standards, that all of us collectively should care for climate change, global warming and everything. Understood? So that will be your conclusion that yes, both standards exist, but because of globalization and ICT, there is more and more harmonization among such standards. And based on those standards, we are rejecting some standards, and based on globalization, we are also promoting cultural relativism also. And you can give the example of Nagoya Protocol, for example, access and benefit sharing. You are recognizing the rights of indigenous communities, that they also have certain rights, and you should respect those rights. So globalization is also promoting cultural relativism by recognizing the indigenous rights. Understood? What is society being self-critical? Self-critical means that you are questioning your belief pattern. For example, triple talaq, it continued for centuries, because community as a whole did not believe in that they should criticize this thing, or they should be, critical of that. Sabarimala or various, problems that are there in Hindu religion also. So society being self-critical. So it undermines that because everything is justified in the name of cultural relativism. So extreme form of cultural relativism has that problem. So now you please note it. From here, I think. Information communication technology. Because of technology, now we are aware. For example, in rural society, earlier you can never perhaps think that women can study, women can wear jeans, that women can go outside to work. So there it is expected that women should be in parda, they should be always in the house only. But when they were exposed to media, when they were watching all these serials, movies, internet, then they realized that what women in urban areas are doing. And then those things now slowly have become normalized in rural areas also to some extent. So that is like harmonization of standards because of ICT. Now it is accepted that yes, women can also study. How does ethical relativism promote authoritarianism? No matter how well I explain this point, I will always get this doubt. I just explained it. I gave you the example of Taliban society. The Taliban society, it can say that now USA will say that you are not treating the women well. You are not having liberty. You are not giving them rights. Then Taliban will say what? Taliban will say what? That our culture is unique, and you should not judge our culture. You are white people, so you should not, impose your Western culture on us. So they are defending their own cultural wrongs in the name of cultural relativism. So that is how cultural relativism promotes authoritarianism, because in the name of cultural relativism, that their culture is unique, you are denying the criticism of your culture. That is how it is promoting authoritarianism. Is it clear, Boraji, Ankan Boraji? Is it clear now? Is it clear now? बाथरूम चले गए होंगे. Yes. आप कोई पूछ रहा था यहाँ से डाउट, बीच में मैंने रोक दिया था उनको. आप पूछ रहे थे कुछ, क्या था? कुछ सुनाई नहीं दिया. हाउ डू, क्या बोल रही हैं ये? बेस्ट ऑफ टैलेंट क्या? हाउ गूगल. अच्छा, बिकॉज गूगल हैज lot of good corporate ethical practices in terms of employees. You know, it gives so much of flexibility. पैसा बहुत ज्यादा देती है. ठीक है, सबसे पहले तो वही है. ठीक है, of course it will attract talent, and then it gives lot of flexibility in terms of working. You know, not just कि आपको ऑफिस में ही वहीं पे रह के करना है, आप टाइम ले सकते हो, अपने हिसाब से कर सकते हो. Then you know, then if you are given some project, you are innovating something, and if it has led to thoughtful failures, that you took all the due diligence, still the project led to failure, then Google reward that. It will send you on trip, it will give you some cash prize, so that your motivation remains high. So that is how it retains talent, that is how it promotes innovation. So lot of good practices are there. We'll read about them in work culture. That right मैंने बस बहुत लूजली बोला है कि वो ऐसा बोल सकते थे कि भैया पैसा नहीं है, तो वो बोल सकते थे, लेकिन वो शायद उतना सही नहीं होता. इनोवेशन से शायद उनको कुछ हेल्प होती. I will discuss that theme later in the context of right when I teach you Western thinkers. Some क्या, इसी साल का क्वेश्चन है. What was considered just is now unjust. What was considered unjust is now just. So you give these arguments only. कहाँ गए argument? रुको, यही तो लिखना है. That कि because of special needs की वजह से change करने का जरूरत पड़ सकता है. Circumstances change होते हैं. Then determinant of ethics also you can bring in. That concept of justice has evolved. So वही argument लिखना है. So from this and that you will make a very comprehensive answer. Yes, it is example of that, Navneet. Done? हमेशा कह सकते हैं, वो तो है ही प्रॉब्लम, वो तो पहला डीमेरिट है. कहाँ लिखा हुआ है? हाँ, रेजिस्ट ग्रोथ एंड प्रमोट इंटॉलरेंस. दोनों साइड से है, बिकॉज एक्सट्रीम फॉर्म ऑफ रिलेटिविज्म कैन लीड टू. यस, हाँ बिल्कुल वही एग्जाम्पल है. डन. अरे भाई ऐसे लिखोगे तो फोटो खींचो, फिर तो होलिया सिलेबस. फोटो खींचो. मोबाइल नहीं लाए क्यों? कहाँ है मोबाइल? नहीं है. अरे भाई फिर कैसे काम करोगे? अच्छा, प्रिपरेशन के लिए आए तो ऐसे सर पे कफन बांध के था कि मोबाइल तो लाऊंगा ही नहीं. लैपटॉप है? हाँ, तो उस पर रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर देखना. चलो लिख लो अब जल्दी से. अच्छा, तो आ जाएगा, क्या चिंता कर रहे हो? लिखो जल्दी जल्दी, फिर ऐसे तो काम नहीं चलेगा. इट विल स्लो डाउन द क्लास. I don't dictate, and that's how I can discuss so many things. बताएंगे सेक्शन ए में. डन. Done? So now let us talk about the application of ethical standards in the context of particular field. So let us talk about environmental ethics. Let us talk about environmental ethics. Now, one thing that we have to learn here is that when we define any term, it needs to be broad in nature. Suppose in society, question A, you get the question on globalization. But suppose if you limit your interpretation to only economic aspect of globalization, then it will be problematic for you. You will not get marks, you will not get dimensions. So you need to consider cultural dimensions of globalization, political dimension, so many dimensions are there. So similarly, whenever you are defining any term, it need to be very broad. So of course, environmental ethics or any ethics for that matter are basically set of standards. Yes, so they are set of standards that govern the righteousness of the human action when we are dealing with the environment. Yes, so that is one aspect of ethics. But another aspect of ethics is, another definition that you will often see in ethics is, it is with respect to the study. That ethics is a branch of study also. Yes, so you can define from that perspective also, or you can simply talk about that ethics, environmental ethics are the standards that deals with the relation of human beings and the environment and the ethical principles, ethical issues surrounding environmental protection. And as you can see that how this particular, definition is very broad. Either you can talk about studies, or you can simply say the standards that deals with the relations of human beings and environment and the ethical problems surrounding environmental protection. So basically, you will be talking about various, you will make the term very broad in nature so that you can generate various dimensions when you are answering the question. Now, as we just talked about, that environmental ethics basically will be a set of standards. So basically, based on certain standards, we will judge whether, this something is right or wrong. And those are the terms that we will always remember. So let us talk about ecocentrism. Earlier, every action was judged from the perspective of human. That it should benefit human beings. That is how it was judged. But when we talk about environment, we need to understand that we need to promote the overall stability of ecosystem and not just human beings, because human beings are only one component of the ecosystem. And when we talk about any decision, we need to talk about stability of the entire ecosystem. Understood or not? Yes? So that is what ecocentrism will mean. And that is how we justify, that we declare some of the animals as vermin. Yes? Under Schedule 5 of the Wildlife Protection Act, we declare certain animals as vermin, that they can be killed. You see the nilgais and everything, the governments can declare them as vermin. And when they are declared as vermin, you can kill them. So that action, of course, is violating the rights of the animals. You are killing them. But it is done to promote the stability of the ecosystem, because the carrying capacity of the ecosystem cannot sustain that much population of the vermin animals. And that is why, we support culling of poultry animal. Yes, poultry birds that are there in the case of bird flu. Because we have to preserve the entire ecosystem, and that is why, culling of poultry will be just fine, because we need to ensure that the ecosystem remains stable. Understood or not? Ecocentrism. So integrity of the entire ecosystem should be at the heart of the environmental ethics. It should not just be the humans. Second important concept is stewardship. Stewardship is basically about taking the responsibility of the environment. Now, why this particular principle is important from the perspective of environmental ethics? Because usually in the case of environment, we believe that environment is someone else's responsibility. And when something is someone else's responsibility, it is actually no one's responsibility. That it is a job of other people to clean the environment. That what I can do alone. It is better that I live my life fully, that I should not think much about carbon footprints and anything like that. It is better that I live my life. So that sort of perspective is avoided. That is wrong because you are not taking part in the environmental conservation. Stewardship is very important principle that is there in the context of environmental ethics, that you are taking responsibility for managing and caring for the environment. Then precautionary principles. Precautionary principle means that whenever you are taking the decision, the very golden rule is that you should not do any harm. If you cannot do any good, at least you should not do any harm. It is called non-malfeasance. I will tell you later. It is called non-malfeasance. It will come in the later slide also. That if you cannot do good, at least you should not do harm. So that is why there are so many rigorous scientific standards that are there when we deal with GMOs. Yes, genetically modified organism. And that is why we take so much of care when we release them in environment. Because if we cannot ensure the benefit of that, the least we can do is that we should not commit harm. Precautionary, we should be precautionary. Then, global perspective. Environmental ethics teaches us that we should have global perspective towards environmental problems, because they are everyone's responsibility and they have global nature. Can any nation solve the problem of climate change and global warming alone? It cannot solve it. So it is everyone's responsibility, and that is why when we are talking about environment, we need to think globally. We need to think globally. We cannot just think in the narrow self-interest that I should not abide by this. I should not care about environment. Now, USA has withdrawn from Paris climate deal. Then that is the example of that is not recognizing the global nature of the environmental problem, that your action, is influencing people that are in other parts of the world. All these developed nations, they were front runners in the race of development. They were, using fossil fuels and everything. But then what happened? Global warming, climate change happened. And the poor developing nations and the poor island nations, they are bearing the brunt of climate change disproportionately. It is not fair to them because they have not contributed so much to the greenhouse gas emissions. Still they are bearing the brunt. Developed country, they have technological wherewithal to deal with climate change events. But developing country, poor island nations, they may not have the technological wherewithal. They may be at the brink of submergence if the sea level rises. So it will be like, it is the doing of, some other nation, and some other nation is actually paying the price for that. So it will be unfair to them. So you should not think, that what you are doing will be having consequences locally only. So the farmers in Punjab think that if they are burning parali, then because the parali is not causing pollution there, then they should not bother about any other thing. Then they are wrong, because they should have global perspective and not local perspective, because it may cause problems elsewhere if not here. So if anyone is having very local perspective, then they are wrong from the perspective of environmental ethics, because environmental ethics teaches us that we should have global perspective, because environmental problems have global consequences. Understood? It also promotes pacifism and peace. What is pacifism? That we should not indulge in war. We should not promote violence. That is pacifism. Yes or no? That is pacifism. Now, why it is part of environmental ethics? Because if we indulge in violence, if we indulge in war, then what happens? What happens? You'll be killing the ecosystem. Any bomb that you drop on any nation, it will kill the environment that is there. It will kill humans, animals, destroy biodiversity that is there. So that is why it promotes peace. That is why it promotes pacifism, that nations should not, indulge in war and conflicts. Understood? So that is what, the tenets of environmental ethics. It also believes in justice, that you should be fair to everyone. That if you are contributing to the pollution, you should pay for the pollution. Polluter pay principles. Yes? For that is why you see all the diesel cars, all these cars, they have environmental cess, extra burden is there on them. And that is why we are promoting EVs. Because polluter should pay for them. Polluter pay principle. Talking about environmental justice, we know about sustainability. That environment we do not get from the ancestors. We borrow it from the next generation, our children. So we are enjoying the environment as the trustee of their resources. The environment belongs to them. So we should not think that we should use air, water, land, everything just as it is for us only. No, we have to leave the same environment to our children also. So we need to take care of it like trustee of the resources. Equity, common but differentiated responsibility, is an example of equity. When we talk about rights, we should ensure that the cruelty to the animal should not be there. It is against environmental ethics. I am sure you would have seen the examples, in which, the people who tie crackers, to the dogs when they celebrate Diwali. One pregnant elephant was there, in Kerala, she was killed. So it is like cruelty to the animals. Then duty. Everyone, each stakeholder has its own duty to perform. That we should reduce our carbon footprint. Corporation should focus on 4 R's of reuse, recycle, restore, and we should reduce consumerism, because that will have carbon footprint. So in environmental context, we are supposed to do our duty. We are supposed to be mindful of the rights of animals and not just of human rights. We are supposed to be fair. We are supposed to ensure justice, and we are supposed to have global perspective. We are supposed to, promote non-violence, because violence, war, pacifism means non-violence. Pacifism means that we should not indulge in war, because it destroys biodiversity. It goes against environment. Talking about scope, all those themes can be your case study. It can be man-animal conflict, it can be development versus environment, it can be, climate change. And there you will see the application of these principles. And based on these principles, you will solve these conflicts. Now you see one question that has come in today's paper, this year's paper. You see that question now. You see, just now you open it. This year's paper. Mobile phone तो है ही ना आप सबके पास. इंटरनेट भी डलवा रखा होगा तो यूज करिए. Just open this year's paper. Pacifism, I just told you, Sohani, you were not listening. I repeated it again just for you here, just now. That pacifism means that we should not indulge in war. That we should promote peace. Because when war is there, when violence is there, you destroy environment, you destroy ecosystem. When you, drop a bomb to other nation, then what happens? You destroy that ecosystem. You kill people, and that is against environment. You kill animals. Understood? मिल गया क्वेश्चन? पढ़िए. क्वेश्चन नंबर बता दीजिए. 2B. तो 2B पढ़िए. Have you understood, Sohani? Question number 2 भी please read. ऑनलाइन वालों आप भी पढ़िए, आप भी पढ़ सकते हो. Outcome definitely we should focus upon, but that does not relate with equity here. Done? So it is simply talking about that we should follow all these principles, and how we can do that? How we can do that? By doing our duty. So individuals have to do their duty, society also have their duty, and nations and multilateral organizations, they also need to do their duty. And that will be the collective answer. We'll discuss that question in section A when we do that mini test, but that will be the answer. I gave the exact same question in full length test of the last batch, that the same statement of Gandhiji, and after that, that how can individual, society, nations, and international organizations can promote environmental sustainability. And that is what that has been asked. So we'll practice that in mini test. Don't worry. Understood? So now you please note it. Environmental ethics. Yes, Riya, we can say that. We will read that in the context of human values. Last line is pacifism and peace. How to make subheading? It is a long question. We'll deal with it. एक हिंदी में कहावत है, सुनिए आपने, धीरे धीरे रे मना. सुनिए आपने ये, धीरे धीरे रे मना, धीरे सब कुछ होए, माली सींचे 100 घड़ा, ऋतु आए फल होए. अगर आप माली हैं और पेड़ में पानी देते हैं, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि आपके ज्यादा पानी देने से कल ही आम आ जाएगा. आम अपने टाइम से आएगा, है ना, वो अपने सीजन में आएगा. सो धीरे धीरे रे मना, धीरे सब कुछ होए, माली सींचे 100 घड़ा. 100 घड़ा पानी देने पे भी ऋतु आए फल होए. जब उसका सीजन आएगा तभी फल आएंगे. तो जब सीजन आएगा आंसर राइटिंग का तब डिस्कस करेंगे. क्या बोल रहे हैं? क्या GM क्रॉप्स? अच्छा, GM crops also have consequences. There is no definition of environmental ethics. My definition of no, same thing only. It deals with the environmental ethics are the set of standards that we deal with the relation that decides the relationship of human beings and environment. Either you can talk about studies or you can talk about standards. Same thing. Because ethics we define from the perspective of studies only. Done? Sir, can you please tell any example of ecocentrism in India? ये वर्मिन का एग्जाम्पल का, चाइना का एग्जाम्पल था कि पाकिस्तान का एग्जाम्पल था? बर्ड फ्लू का जो एग्जाम्पल दिया, या अगेन अफ्रीका का एग्जाम्पल दिया क्या आपको? ये भी इंडिया में ही होता है. तो ये इकोसेंट्रिसिज्म के बेसिस पे जस्टिफाइड होते हैं ये एक्शन, कि भैया हमको ओवरऑल कैरिंग कैपेसिटी पे ध्यान देना है, इसलिए कुछ लोगों, कुछ एनिमल्स को मारना होगा बिकॉज ओवर पॉपुलेशन हो गई है. सुना करिए ढंग से, जब आई थिंक 2-4 बार मैंने सेम चीज बताई. Similar example is the invasive species, and that also at times we need to get rid of because it disturbs the ecology. So we need to promote the overall ecology. Done? सबका हो गया? So let us now discuss technological ethics. Let us now discuss technological ethics. So basically, as you see now, these are the ethical principles that guides the responsible development, deployment, and the usage of technology. Very simple. Now I am defining in the context of principles, or you can say Technical ethics studies the responsible use of development, deployment, and the use of technology, or the ethical use of technology. That also you can say, but the point is that it needs to be broad in nature. Understood? So now let us discuss that what are the ethical principles that we are supposed to follow in the context of technology. When we are dealing with technology, when we are developing technology, when we are using the technology. But sir, if we leave environment and ecology on its own, then it heals itself. And we have seen during COVID times, rivers healed, air pollution was lowered. ठीक है, तो भाई आप फिर सांस लेने पे कंट्रोल करिए, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड आप भी बहुत निकाल रहे हैं. ये क्या है, मतलब ठीक है वो कर सकते हैं. दैट इज व्हाई देयर हैज टू बी बैलेंस बिटवीन डेवलपमेंट एंड एनवायरनमेंट, एंड दैट वी कॉल इट ए सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट. And that is why each of us have duty to reduce our carbon footprint. Yes, it is there. और साला ये भी तो नहीं है ना कि हम घर में जाके बैठ जाएं, क्योंकि एनवायरनमेंट ही खाली हील करना है. वो भी तो वो एक्सट्रीम में सोचना हो गया ना फिर. But sir, killing vermin is cruelty. Yes, it is cruelty, but for the sake of ecosystem, we have to do it. टेररिस्ट को मारना भी क्रूएल्टी है, बट मारना पड़ता है ना कभी कभी. तो नहीं मारोगे टेररिस्ट को, प्यार करोगे. So all I'm saying is that everything is contextual. सर डेली क्लास की स्टार्टिंग में फोटो खिंचवा दिया करो, फिर टॉयलेट जाने का टाइम वेस्ट नहीं होगा. भाई टॉयलेट करके बैठा करो ना. कौन कहता है बीच में जाओ, ये घर से पढ़ रहे हैं ये बेसिकली. ये फाउंडेशन कोर्स के बच्चे लग रहे हैं मुझको, ठीक है, हरकतों से. So now let us discuss the principles that we should follow when we are dealing with technology. So one thing that all of us should understand with respect to technology is that technology is very powerful tool. You cannot imagine the kind of potency technology can have. It can do so many things that are very difficult to actually comprehend at this point of time. Yes, so when we heard about Pegasus, yes, now then we got to know that that much amount of breach that can be done. Yes. So that is why the very first rule of technology, it can be that we need to ensure that the privacy of the individual is protected, because technology can be very powerful. Privacy of the individuals we should not use technology to sacrifice or to abuse the privacy of the individuals. How would you feel, if I just tell you that, each of your photos and videos in the mobile phones, they can be accessed by whichever company of mobile phone you are using? How would you feel? You will feel violated. Yes, you will feel. कुछ लोग ऐसे हंस रहे हैं, क्या हंस रहे हैं भाई, कैसे कैसे फोटोज हैं. So you will feel violated. Yes. So because your privacy, right to privacy is not recognized, it is violated like anything. You talk about Apple, it simply refuses to actually, open the mobile phones, even when various law enforcement company ask them to do so. So privacy. And that is why, whenever you type your password, it just anonymizes the data so that no one else can read the data that you are typing. So that is a usage of technology, that it is anonymizing the data you are using. Yes. Similarly, security. Whatever transaction you are using, through the use of technology, it should be secure. It should be secure. For example, whenever you are doing this internet banking transaction, there are various layers of protection. You need to remember your user ID, password, and OTP is also there. At times some other factor of authentication is there. So basically, efforts are made that technological transactions are secure. Otherwise, what will happen? What will happen? Jamatara, kya naam hai? Yes, that will happen. So you will be siphoned off. Every money that is there will be siphoned off. So security, the technology, the usage of technology should be secure in nature. When you are developing a technology, you need to ensure that it is fit for human consumption. It is fit for human security. I will give you the example of EVs. It should not be the case that you are using EVs, in the month of June and it is just, catching fire because it cannot tolerate the heat that is there. If you are not so sure about your technology, then perhaps you should not put that in public domain because your technology should be safe for human consumption. Security. Then transparency should be there. Whenever you are dealing with technology, transparency should be there with respect to the access. Now, whenever we install any app, we see that it asks for so many approval, access to gallery, whether you can read it can read text messages and everything. So we know that we only have given them access. So transparency should be there. Every company, should be held accountable for its actions and omissions because that company is responsible for the creation of that technology. I would like to remind you about the changes in, e-waste management rule, plastic waste management rule, in which the companies are asked that they should take back, they should, generate a mechanism in which they can take some of their electronic waste back. So they are held accountable for the kind of carbon footprint they are creating. If any company is violating environmental norms, it is held accountable. Yes, Bharat stage norms are there. Yes, so they are held accountable if any company is violating those laws, rules and regulations. You talk about WhatsApp. Now WhatsApp has become ubiquitous. Yes, every one of us is using WhatsApp. And because of that, it have now become a very potent app, very potent messenger app. So much so that you can, simply spread your message, in few minutes to lot many people. And it was misused also to, to share fake news, to inflame hatred. It was misused also. So the company took that responsibility on itself that, that we will be, responsible for this because we have developed this technology. We have made humans so powerful in terms of enhancing the reach of the messages. So what it did, it made the technological changes so that now you cannot forward a particular message to so many people. Now when a message is forwarded, the forwarder is written over the message. Why they have done so? Because even if the message is coming from your loved ones, your father is sending to you, most likely your father sends you those kind of messages. Okay, even if it is coming from your brothers and sisters, then you should know that you should do your due diligence, even though it is coming from your trusted friend and advisor, because the forwarder is written over there. So basically, the company took it upon itself that, yes, we are responsible for that and we will ensure that our technological platform is not misused for the wrong purposes. It also launched the campaign to tackle fake news. We saw that how Facebook, the Cambridge Analytica scandal that was there, that how the data was used, to influence the campaign. So that is what we are supposed to follow. Technology should be fair. You talk about artificial intelligence. Now, in artificial intelligence, how does it work? How does machine learning works? We are actually feeding some data to the machine and it is then learning through the algorithm that how it will react. But then, if you are feeding the wrong data, it may lead to the bias also, algorithm bias also. I will give this example that Amazon, it stopped using a particular hiring platform after it recognized that it was favoring males because they were more likely to use these particular keywords. So algorithm bias can be there. You talk about Instagram, suppose you are someone who is having some biases or prejudices against a particular community, and you suppose like a reel that promote that biases. Then what will happen? You will be shown that reel again and again. Yes, you will be shown that reel again and again. Basically, The algorithm is biased. Algorithm is simply perpetuating your biases. It is simply strengthening your biases. It is called echo chamber impact, in which you are simply strengthening your biases. You are not shown any content that is contrary to your view. So that is algorithm bias that is there. Whenever we are developing a technology, we should do it for the purpose of beneficence, that it should benefit human society. That is very common ethical standard that you can write these two terms in almost every aspect, bioethics and everything. Everywhere you can use these two terms, beneficence, that development of technology for the benefit of the humankind. For example, we should not indulge in, making bioterrorist weapon, chemical weapons. We should not do that because they are banned for the human society. Non-malfeasance, it means that whenever you are making a technology, you should be very sure of it. If you cannot do something good, at least you should not do the harm. And that is why, we test rigorously GM crops, and that is why, the driverless cars that are there, the prospects, it looks fantastic. But then you have to be very, very sure before you put that in public domain. Non-malfeasance. Your technology should not lead to harm. Informed consent should be there. Whenever you are creating a technology, you should ensure that the consumers, they give you informed consent. The technology should be such that it should be sustainable in nature. You should not develop technology, that promotes unsustainability. Sustainable practices should be promoted. And ultimately, you should respect human autonomy because technology is very powerful. Suppose I am wearing this watch, one watch I am wearing, digital watch is there, it is monitoring my health parameter and it is sending me signal that you are not well, you may have this heart attack, and that is why you should have this medicine or you should have this supplement immediately. So it should not nudge me towards doing that. It should respect my autonomy. At best, it should warn me that you are not good. Your health is not good. It should respect my autonomy to make my decisions. So when we are dealing with technological ethics, we are talking about all these principles that in any technology, we are supposed to follow these technological principles, these ethical principles. If we are not following them, then it is wrong. Technological ethics also means that it should be accessible, it should be fair to everyone. It should not be the monopoly of few individuals who, So digital divide should not be there. If digital divide is there, then it is against technological ethics. 40% women, Indian women, 40% less likely to use mobile internet. Basically, the digital divide is there between men and women. The cyber attacks, they are violation of technological ethics. Cyber attacks, they are violation of technological ethics because they goes against the principle of beneficence, non-malfeasance, privacy and everything. So now you understand that when we are dealing with technology, what are the kind of standards we should follow? Yes? Now you read that one question, first question. Again, open your phone. First question. First question of this year, of course. It says that the usage of AI in rational decision making of administration is a debatable issue. So A, we need to talk about the limitation of AI from the perspective of ethics, and B, we need to talk about from the limitation of rational perspective that we will discuss later. So there are two sides of this question, not just one side of technological ethics. The answer will be incomplete. But here definitely we can talk about the bias in algorithm. Definitely we can talk about that we cannot rely on AI to make the decision because we know that for Indian women, 40% they are less likely to use the mobile internet, and that is why the data may be incomplete. So our decision may not be rational. That is why it is a debatable issue. AI may actually, promote biases because of echo chamber impact. That is why it is a debatable issue. So now you can answer that question, I am sure. Of course, that question has various layers, and we will discuss that when we discuss in the mini test. But of course, now you are understanding how you will be applying the ethical standards in solving of the questions. Yes or no? Yes, sir. So now you please note. GDPR guidelines, you please go home Of course, in mini test, I will tell you what are those. But if you go home, you can note down the ethical principles that are there as part of GDPR. I will also tell you in mini test discussion later. Someone was asking me a question. Everyone. From the usage, deployment, development of technology. If you are developing the technology, you should be very mindful that, that your mobile phone can be so powerful that it is recording everything that you are saying. So when we are developing the technology, you should have that control. The user should have that control that you can just switch it off. It should not record every conversation that is there. So during every stage of technology, we have to employ those technical ethics. User perspective, manufacturer perspective, government perspective, regulator perspective, from everyone's perspective. ऐसे तो हाउ प्राइवेसी एब्सोल्यूट हो सकती है क्या? फिर अभी गवर्नमेंट आपका होता है, देख रही हो मोबाइल फोन कि आप किससे बात कर रही हो, आप चल रहे हो स्कैनर में, ये पाकिस्तान से फोन आ रहे हैं इनको, फिर आपकी प्राइवेसी तो गई. अब आप क्या बोलोगी, मेरी तो प्राइवेसी टेक्निकल एथिक्स कहाँ मेरे सर ने पढ़ाई थी, तो मुझे भी ले जाएंगे पकड़ के, क्या पढ़ा रहे हो? बोला पढ़ाना चाहिए था कि प्राइवेसी कम्स विद रीजनेबल रिस्ट्रिक्शंस. तो समझिए, वो तो ऑब्वियस है. Yes? Yes, it will come into the Sohani. Fairness, net neutrality, fair principle. Done? So I think we shall stop here. Tomorrow we will read some other aspect of applied ethics. It is very much important. Yes? So go home and revise it well. Tomorrow I will try to give you notes, and then you can revise that also. Tomorrow is Friday, right? So you will have 2 days after that. So just tomorrow we will get notes. Okay, bye-bye everyone. Take care. Good night.